Hello, college football fans. Welcome back to Saturdays Over Sunday. This is episode 6. We had a bye week last week for fall break of school. Talking about week 10 of college football this week. This is the biggest week college football has seen in 2018 so far. A lot of implications on the line. Huge matchups. We're going to break down the Alabama-LSU game and the Georgia-Kentucky game for you, as well as pick 4 or 5 other games for you. I'm really excited about this week. Let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, Ben, like you said, this week, ranked matchups is what we've got. Week 10 is upon us, and a lot of big games out there that are changing the landscape of college football by the time we wake up on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this Saturday.
The biggest game, obviously, down in Baton Rouge. Number 1, Alabama, traveling down to visit LSU at night. A top 3 matchup.
Game day.
I don't even know. This atmosphere is going to be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm going to the game. You're going to the game. I expect to not be able to hear the person next to me when they come out of the tunnel. I'm really excited. But also, there's other big matchups, which we'll get into a little bit later.
No, yeah, and college football, not much news coming out this week other than the thing coming out about DJ Durkin was reinstated after a long leave, and then a day later was fired due to they didn't really explain why, but it seems like there were a lot of backlash with what happened, and then reinstating him, not much going on, and then they kind of changed their mind.
Right. To be honest, as a head coach, you're in charge of everything that goes on in a program, whether it's strength and conditioning, academics, performance on the field. Everything that the players do comes back on the head coach. Whether you think that's fair or not, that's just how the job works. And to be honest, he failed. Unfortunately, there was a loss of life for a teammate, if a mother-father lost their kid. I think he deserved to be fired. I don't think he handled it very well. The governor had a comment about it, and that's never good.
No, I think he handled it immaturely. I think he was quiet. I think he was behind everything. And I think that, at the end of the day, when that kid was recruited there, he was recruited by DJ Durkin. And he made a promise to his parents that he would keep him safe and make him the best kid possible. And now he's not even here.
Right, and listen, I love sports, and his job is, part of his job is to win football games, but it's much more than that. I'm never happy when someone loses a job, but I think it was deserving in this case.
There's always different circumstances, and this is a specific circumstance that...
Right. Moving on to a little bit brighter news. 2 huge matchups like we talked about earlier. Let's break down number 1, Alabama, traveling down to number 3, LSU first. There are some wild stats. About this game coming up. To share a few with you, let's talk about yards per play. Alabama leads the SEC and is second in the country behind Oklahoma with 8.3 yards per play.
Think about that.
That's ridiculous.
They're averaging...
They're almost getting a first down on every single play.
Second down and 1.7 every time.
And LSU is last in the SEC with 5.33 yards per play.
And the big story coming out of this game, just coming off of that stat, is everyone knows Alabama's offense, and if they keep rolling like they do, and if LSU, it's as simple as LSU just won't be able to keep up, and then that's just the game.
Right, and for me, one of the keys to the game is Joe Burrow and the LSU offense is going to have to effectively throw the ball down the field.
Absolutely. And
they can't do all these dump passes and just run the football like they do on everyone. That doesn't work against Alabama.
Right, and everyone thinks that this Alabama-LSU game is going to be so typical. This is the normal ground and pound, like back in the 2010, 2011, 2012 years when everything was 1 versus 2 like it is now. But this game's different. These offenses and these defenses it's a different feel because Saban's not coming in he's going to establish a run game, yes. But our offense...
don't run the ball 40 times a game.
Right, our offense is passing the ball an unbelievable amount. Our leading rusher is Najee Harris with 78 carries on the season. Alabama doesn't do that. Right. 78 carries. We've played 8 games.
Right. When you got a left-handed slinger...
That's what I'm saying.
We call him our sweet Hawaiian prince in Tuscaloosa.
It's a completely different game.
When you got him, listen, I love our running backs. I love Najee's talent. Damien's been in the moment. He's a senior now. He's very good. Josh Jacobs can do a little bit of everything, whether it's pass block, receiving out of the backfield,
Everything.
or running outside or inside. He does it all.
Let's flip it
There's
over.
there's just no reason not to give the ball to his left arm and just let him sling it around.
Right, we know what he can do. Let's flip over to that LSU defense, which they will be without their star linebacker, maybe the best linebacker in the country in the first half. Devin White will be missing due to targeting 2 weeks ago because both of these teams are coming off of a bye as usual. But yeah, that is a big blow early on because you know how fast Alabama gets out there, and then it seems like they get out 28 points. And then they just manage it. So when Devin White comes back in, if that goes the way it's going to be, it doesn't matter.
Right, and I think, listen, LSU, they have a nasty defense every single year. They have a guy who's going to replace Devin White, and he knows how to play the position at a very high level because it's LSU. To me, the biggest component they miss Devin White in is communication.
Absolutely. It's just getting the sideline to the field. That's what it is.
Right, and middle linebacker. I mean, you're the quarterback of the defense. You're in charge of audibles. You're in charge of switching defensive linemen, go left to right, switching coverages. If you see something, you're supposed to be the smartest guy on the field in run or pass coverage. I think communication is big. I mean, that's big. There's if you're a stud linebacker, like we've seen in the past in the SEC, Roquan, Reuben, Mac Wilson, even Devin White, those guys, they're so good at their job that I know for a fact that they can read a play before their defensive coordinator can even signal something.
100% agree.
They just know the game that well.
Right, and if you think about it and you really dig deep into when the team's depth starts coming out early in the year and they're talking about the cliche, the linebacker's the quarterback of the defense. He really is, and he's making those calls and he's communicating everything from the sideline. And when a coach is picking that player out, it's not based on your skill set. It's not based on what's going on around. It's about how well you can read the field. So you could be the worst linebacker on the field physically, but if you know how to play the game and you can get it done physically, he's going to put you in there because you can relay exactly.
Make everyone else better.
One movement of the linebacker changes everything.
Right.
One movement of the running back that he can read changes everything. The offensive line moving their head changes everything. And you have to be able to see that and relay that quicker for anyone.
Right, and I mean LSU's defense, they have a lot of NFL talent on it. One of them in the secondary. If you've never heard of Greedy Williams,
Go look him up.
Yeah, go look him up. I mean, this guy is a prototypical NFL corner. He's got long arms. He excels in man-to-man coverage. He's got top-notch recovery speed if you can get past him. That's going to be that's one of the best matchups I've ever seen if he's, whoever he's covering, whether
Regardless,
it's
and
Ruggs, Judy, Waddle, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Smith.
Thinking about it, you may not find stats. You'll find highlights. You may not find stats because no one throws on him. But
right, he takes away half the field,
exactly.
but Alabama, they throw at everyone.
And we're going to see, and I think what they're going to try to do is they're obviously going to want him to cover the best receiver, which is Judy, but we're going to throw in some packages in there to get him tired and let him run around. We're going to send him deep when the ball's not even going there. We're going to take him out of the game, hopefully, and I think that's what the plan is because of these three receivers. But Devontae Smith is day-to-day, still healing from the hamstring injury 2 weeks ago. He's been practicing all week and all bye week.
He's playing.
He will be playing.
He
will not be announced yet. And I think that with the amount of receivers that we have, it'd be great if he was healthy and do what he can do because we all know the plays he can make. But to have that guy as a decoy wouldn't be the worst thing ever.
Right. I mean, he's going to play. He'll get his touches. It just may be in a more limited role if he can't be 100%. And I'm not really worried about him. He's been practicing all week.
Exactly.
I mean, another stat. I mean, this one is insane to me. Listen, I watch Alabama football every week, obviously, being a student at Alabama. Tua has 2 more touchdowns than the entire LSU offense. I mean,
He has 25.
Is that not absurd?
He has 25.
Right. I mean, that's for one player to have more than an entire offense. And I know LSU's offense isn't explosive, but that's still absurd.
Right. For a top 3 team, you still got to score points to win games. So, like I said, their defense is there, but no, let's go back to Tua. I mean, to have 25 touchdowns versus 23 versus the whole team is ridiculous. But, I mean, you're just looking at the personnel around him is just, it's unmatched around the country. And, going back to what we said earlier, it's just like, can LSU keep up? And that's just assuming Alabama does what they need to do, and that's what we're waiting to see. Will Alabama come out there and score on their first drive?
Right. I mean, listen, we mentioned the yards per play earlier. Well, here's another stat how LSU has been winning football games. LSU leads the SEC in 352 rush attempts. Alabama's defense has faced the second fewest rush attempts in the SEC with only 256. LSU has been committed to running the ball all year long. And I'm going to tell you what, running the ball up the middle on Alabama has always been a nightmare since Saban has been there. And it might be even more scary than normal right now. When you got Raekwon and Quentin Williams in there, that kid is balling out.
Yeah, Quentin Williams, number 92. He
could be a first-round pick, and he can't even go pro.
He immediately became the best linebacker in the country. His hands are Aaron Donald-like. His speed off the ball with his size is
You know who he reminds me of in the NFL?
Who?
He reminds me of, and it was a former SEC player who used to play at Georgia's, Geno Atkins.
Absolutely. Oh.
A little...
Bengals.
He's on the Bengals now, and he's been an all-pro. He may be a little smaller in the weight category than your typical defensive tackle.
But his speed...
But his footwork and his work with his hands are unmatchable. That he can get past the double team, it doesn't matter.
The get-off and the combined speed and power he has with how fast his hands are for someone who hasn't even started till this year it's absurd to watch.
Right.
I mean, going off of that, Bama has the most sacks in the SEC this year. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but they are leading the SEC in sacks, and LSU is leading the SEC in sacks given up. So with this defense finally gelling, coming off a bye week, I think it's going to be scary because Alabama's inside middle linebacker, Dylan Moses, who is a Louisiana native, was recruited to LSU for a very long time, committed to Alabama, and is very, very hungry to get out there and play this game because it's very special to him.
Don't forget about Savion Smith, who's a corner. He was his freshman year was spent at LSU.
Right. Went JUCO, then Alabama.
Went JUCO, now he's at Alabama. The fear that I sometimes have with hometown kids returning to their hometown is you're going to be amped up. And I understand that. Listen, I used to play sports. When I used to play against my friends, I mean, I was amped up.
As little as playing Little League Baseball, when I used to pitch against my friend, you would get a little
right, you want to strike him out.
Can't even imagine what this is like.
I know, I haven't talked to Dylan Moses. I know how hard he wants to hit some of his LSU buddies. My fear is targeting. If he gets kicked out, if Savion Smith gets kicked out, especially Savion, because they're limited.
I was about to say Savion's
they're in trouble. I mean, listen, I get it. Savion knows almost this entire team. He knows Ed Orgeron. He was there when Ed Orgeron was there. They need to play smart. They need to play their game, and they need to play what Nick Saban preaches every single year. You've got to stay disciplined. You've got to play within yourself.
And don't get complacent.
Right. You can play hyped up, but you cannot play stupid.
And I was going to make that point. I was going to say, after you saying that, I'm going to go back to the trust of Saban's discipline.
Right. I mean, the last stat that we're going to mention is LSU's defense hasn't allowed a first quarter touchdown in 12 consecutive games.
That's one.
Do you remember the last person to do it?
Bama, 2017.
Right. And you know who scored on all 8 opening drives this year?
Bama.
So, I mean, right out of the gate, this is going to be something that's going to be, interesting to watch. I'm fired up about it.
I mean, I was talking to someone about this, and if, say, Alabama comes out, gets the ball first, LSU's on defense, that crowd is going nuts, and say they do stop Alabama, not like anything crazy, they just go 3 and out, whatever, halfway through the field. Regardless of how it gets done, that stadium is going to go absolutely insane because that is the first team that'll stop this greatest team ever to do it this year. So, I mean, 1, they'll be excited to not let them score. 2, it's Alabama. And 3, it's this offense that everyone's talking about, how they're going to go out there and score.
Right. Before we tell you who's going to win, we'll do that in our Pick'em segment. Let's break down another game. It's probably the second biggest game of the week, if not maybe the third. We're talking about the SEC East here. The winner of this game wins the SEC East, and that's Georgia, and that's Kentucky, and it's in Lexington, Kentucky.
This is just such an interesting matchup. Georgia coming off of the big rivalry win against Florida down in Jacksonville.
And Fromm looked good.
He
looked like himself.
He settled in about halfway through the second quarter. Kentucky, I still don't know. I mean, they were put in the top 10 by the college football rankings last night. They do play really well at home, but I honestly think that Georgia didn't play amazing against Florida. They didn't play bad, but you could tell that they settled in a little bit. You could see how they
they played their ball.
Right. You could see how they took control, and I think that's what they needed. Regardless of you obviously want to win, but how much you win by. But you could tell that Kirby was going to get that control back, and he did, and he was very excited about it. And I think that Georgia getting that control back, and I think there's no question that they'll go in and win this game.
I mean, here's the thing listen, I've bashed Kentucky's offensive side of the ball all year long. Outside of Benny Snell, who is a phenomenal running back in the country, not just in the SEC.
Correct.
I don't believe in their quarterback and his ability to make big-time plays, although he has done it. He didn't even play the whole game last week.
Did he not?
Against Missouri. No, the backup quarterback, led most of the second half points. So whether they're going to play two quarterbacks again, that'll be interesting. The one thing I do know about Kentucky is they can play some nasty defense.
Yes, they can.
You mentioned Devin White. Well, Kentucky has Josh Allen
They do.
playing middle linebacker for them. Folks, if you don't know who that is, you will be hearing his name in the NFL draft, and it will be early. This kid's a first-round pick. Lock it.
Oh, right. He's a combine buster, too.
This kid is everywhere on the field, rarely misses a tackle, communicates at the highest level. He is like a coach with that defense.
He is.
That'd be interesting to
leader.
watch versus, Georgia's play-action game and run game. Georgia loves the play-action ball. They were very successful against Florida, who has one of the best pass defenses. On one drive right before halftime, Isaac Nauta had 4 catches. I think 3 of them were in a row, if not all 4.
I think so, yes.
That'll be interesting. Georgia's play-action game is their biggest part.
Right, and I think, like I said, Fromm settled in a little bit. It was against the third-string defensive backs for Florida, but when you're sitting in and throwing those balls like you do, regardless, because that pocket was not there.
Yeah, Georgia's offensive line, 2 of them got hurt in the Florida game. Their offensive line hasn't been like...
They don't look good.
They're just not as nasty as they should be.
Right,
They
they
have
have-
the biggest line in college football.
They
I
get their
believe.
blocks, they're not getting their push.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Listen, this is a huge game. It's obviously
a lot of emotion.
Yeah, Georgia's favored. They're favored by 9,
Right.
which I think they should be favored. But the game is in Kentucky. Mark Stoops
This is for the SEC.
has this team. Yeah, they're going to be fired up. They're at home. I think Kirby's message is going to be fairly similar to what his message was against Florida, and I think you can apply this to the Alabama LSU game. These games are won at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like I said.
If you didn't see the video, Kirby and Dan Mullen's pregame speech was leaked a little bit, and Kirby said, "Whoever wins the line of scrimmage, whoever plays nasty up front, always wins these games."
Right.
And he's not wrong.
And there's always that unwritten rule of don't turn the ball over.
Right. Let's pick some games.
Let's move on.
As we always do, we start with the top 5. This week, let's do it a little different. Let's go from reverse order.
Okay.
Let's start with the Big 12. Let's go number 13, West Virginia's at number 17, Texas.
Oh, Texas.
Now, before we get into that, okay, listen, I said Texas is back after they beat Oklahoma. Well, they're not because they lost last week.
Well, you can't say they're back or not. You can't determine off week by week. That's the tough part.
Right, but listen, they're not back. You don't lose to Oklahoma State. I don't care if it's at Oklahoma State.
Especially the way they did.
Well, they only lost by 3, but it was
No,
more
it
than...
was just
they had a huge comeback.
It was
so.
deteriorating. It was bad.
I think Texas is very interesting. The talent is there. They're at home this week.
Yeah. West Virginia is also so just confused. They keep floating around that 13 ranking, and it's just like, is Wigger playing well? Is he not playing well? This is a weird game to me. I don't really know.
Texas, the line is 2 in Texas's favor. It's at Texas.
I think Texas, coming off of a loss, I think they go home. I think they win a close one. Get back on track a little bit. And like I said, West Virginia has just been very inconsistent for me this year. And I think they just struggle on the road at Texas.
To be honest, this is obviously a must-win for both teams. But now that the Big 12 has a championship game, these teams aren't necessarily out of it. Now,
No, they're not.
Texas needs either West Virginia or Oklahoma to lose. So they're playing West Virginia this week. So if they can win that, they would probably need Oklahoma to lose one more time. If not, they would play them in the Big 12 championship. It's a must-win for both teams.
Like I mentioned,
Texas has the better defense.
agreed.
West Virginia has the better offense.
At its peak.
At its peak, right. But Texas' quarterback's not 100%. He's well enough to play. He's healthy enough to play. I'm picking West Virginia in this game on the road. I think Will Grier and David Stills are going to be too much. That combination right there, the quarterback wide receiver, have been too much.
Right. I don't
I
see
think they score. This is a high-scoring game.
I don't see a full Texas collapse, so I think Texas is going to win.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Big Ten. Let's go number 14, Penn State, at number 5, Michigan. This is interesting. I mean, Michigan has looked pretty good ever since week 1.
They just keep rolling.
I mean, they're 7-1. They lost week 1, which is a good loss to Notre Dame.
And they're actually winning with margin of victory.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play great against Michigan State, but
That's a rivalry game.
yeah, it was at Michigan State, I believe.
Right.
And they're also off a bye now. Penn State's very interesting. They lost to Ohio State by 1. Then they lost to Michigan State, which was kind of inexcusable, sorry. They beat a pretty good Indiana team. They beat a good Iowa team last week, 30-24. McSorley got hurt but came back in the game and made the biggest plays. Penn State wins when Trace McSorley can run the football.
Yes, when he can expand the play and kind of make it last a little longer for his players and for him to kind of see the field, that's when he gets his success. And I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. But
Michigan's defense is phenomenal. Rashawn Gary's actually been banged up a little bit. He's most likely playing, I would say.
No, I think he is playing.
I'm picking Michigan. They're at home. They're the better team this year. I'm picking Michigan.
Yeah, Penn State's shown a lot of holes, a lot of inconsistencies, and I think Michigan, I don't know if they finally have it, but they kind of have it. And they're at home. Win.
Next up, number 4, Notre Dame's going at Northwestern. Northwestern's a very interesting college football program.
I was just about to say, pull them up.
Well, I mean, listen, they're 5-3, but I feel like every year they beat someone they're not supposed to.
Right.
I guess you could say maybe they beat Wisconsin last week. Listen, Wisconsin's not great, but Wisconsin should be better than Northwestern. Northwestern doesn't effectively move the ball enough to beat Notre Dame. I'm picking the Irish.
I'm going to take the Irish, but Northwestern coming off of a
big win.
Win.
Wisconsin.
And
they've also now won 4 in a row.
And they do well over there sometimes. They do those weird little shocking games, like you said. But I'm going to take Notre Dame. They keep rolling, and I think Notre Dame stays undefeated past week 9. Weird past week 9. I'm saying that's weird to hear.
Next up, Louisville's at number 2, Clemson. This is not much to talk about.
Not at all. Trevor, okay, here's what I'm going to say about Clemson, though. Clemson is playing unbelievable football right now, and no one is talking about them.
Well, I mean, listen, Trevor Lawrence is finding his groove. He is every bit of what he was expected to be.
Exactly.
And he's only a true freshman.
Exactly. And their defensive line, they are all 4
They're
projected.
nasty.
They're nasty, and they're finally starting to gel. And I can see it. And
Yeah.
They're playing. You can always tell when a team's playing a little better, like playing at the level they're actually supposed to finally at the point. And you can tell, by the way, just in between plays, everything's at just a different speed. You can tell they finally got to that elite speed. They got into the meat of the season where everything just clicked and everything's just like all the preparation came together and they're starting to go. And I think Clemson is a serious threat to the national championship.
The line's 38.5.
I mean, that's absurd. Absurd.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm picking Clemson. I'm picking them big.
Right. And that Louisville, yes, is a very different team than when they played Alabama week 1. But Clemson is going to take care of business, no problem.
All right. We already talked about these 2 games earlier. Let's go. The last 2 we're going to do is number 6, Georgia is at number 9, Kentucky. We already broke it down for everyone.
Ben, who is winning the SEC East, going to Atlanta after this Saturday?
Georgia.
Georgia is.
And to be honest,
Convincingly?
what do you consider a blowout?
In college football or in a game like this? An SEC game?
Yeah, I mean, in college football in general. I always say 3 possessions or more. So 17 or more.
I've always said 3 possessions is...
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying
3
17 for
possessions.
touchdown
Okay.
field goal purposes.
I was going to say 21. So, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think
Upper
Georgia...
teens.
I think this is kind of similar to, for the first half of Georgia-Florida like it was last week. I think Georgia comes out in the second half and...
Where they both look confused and feeling out the game?
Yeah, just...
Seeing where the ball
Georgia
falls, literally.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they can't... Listen, I'm going to say one thing I did not mention in the breakdown. Georgia has one of the most lethal weapons, and he plays defense, and he's number 18. His name is DeAndre Baker. This guy, this kid, for sure is going to be one of the top corners taken.
Absolutely.
He takes away half the field.
No, you don't throw on him.
I mean, he's that good.
And if you go look him up and just look at his body,
They don't throw to him.
He's
And
not-
when they do, it's rarely, and I mean rarely, a completion.
his body is not a defensive back. He is so long and strong and fast. It's unbelievable. It doesn't look like he looks like a too skinny of a linebacker playing outside.
The one thing Georgia needs to be careful for, they got to keep the quarterback in the pocket. He's very fast.
Right. And if Kentucky establishes that run early, look out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Georgia's going to put a ton in the box to stop Benny Snell.
And especially with Kirby.
And make Wilson throw the ball.
Kirby's. I just don't see Kirby losing this game.
No, I'm picking Georgia.
I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to take them blowout, like we said, somewhere around 17 to 21 points.
Last game, number 1, Alabama at number 3, LSU in Baton Rouge, college game day. We broke this down a lot for you guys. Now listen, we both go to Alabama. We both root for Alabama. This is a non-biased pick. The better football team that's going to line up in this game wears crimson and white.
I think so too. I mean,
on offense, defense, not special teams.
No.
Bama needs to punt. When they do punt the ball, I don't know who's punting.
Here's a defensive special teams advantage Alabama, but like offensive when it comes to punting, kicking, and actually getting the ball off, advantage LSU.
Right, but who do you got in this game?
I've always had Alabama, but when it comes to what I think is going to happen, I've been going back and forth ever since the last game ended for Alabama. Just thinking about LSU, and I've gone to Bama's just going to do 51-13 again. No, it's going to be an Alabama LSU game. It's going to be 13-6. Or it's going to be 28-14, just a normal game. I don't know. But I'm going to say this. I don't see any reason why Bama goes out there and take care and see why not. They're going to go take care of business, do what they need to do, put up 40-plus points, let up 17 or less, and business as usual.
Here's what I've been saying all week, and I've talked to a lot of people about this game. I've heard some people think it's just going to be a blowout. Some people think LSU has somewhat of a chance. Most people I've talked to think Alabama's going to win and pick Alabama to win. I'm also picking Alabama to win. But I'm going to say this. I would be shocked if Alabama scores more than 40 points in this game. Now, but the thing is, the fact that my number is 40 is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I would be shocked. I think they can get to 40. I'm going to say... Oh, I don't like perfect scores, but...
Give me one.
38-13. I just don't think Joe Burrow can throw the ball downfield enough to even scare Bama. He hasn't done it almost all year.
And also, not just that, I don't think he's going to have time to. Like, when is he going to have time to sit there unless he rolls out and something breaks down, which there will be breakdowns because that's just football. But I just don't see it. And I think that if he is passing downfield, it's going to be a lot of those over-the-top balls where we can kind of come under it. It's not going to be those. He's not going to throw a 25-yard. He's not going to throw a 25-yard strike.
No, but I think.
Sorry.
With a quarterback who has the ability to throw the ball down the field but hasn't yet. And listen, growing up a Georgia fan, no one really does this better than I watched Aaron Murray, and that's a back shoulder throw. And for my Georgia fans listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Aaron Murray used to go those 12 to 18-yard downfields and do a back shoulder down the sideline. And that's very tough.
It was a very mid-range. It wasn't short. It wasn't long.
Right. It was mid-range.
It's right where that padding was in the defense.
And he perfected it. And I think that's where Alabama could maybe get in trouble. I don't think deep threat over the safeties, Deontay Thompson and Xavier McKinney, I don't think you're going to beat those two, if not the corners. You're not going to beat both of them.
Right. And I'm excited.
I think the back shoulder throws will be the biggest. If Bama can defend that, that's if I'm LSU, I'm running those back shoulder throws.
I'm not discounting LSU at all on this, and I think it's just because of Alabama's offense is so good. But like, LSU is going to test Patrick Surtain for a full game. He's going to they're going to test.
Yeah, he's a true freshman.
He's a freshman. This is a real game. They're going to start throwing him. He doesn't have that many stats. He doesn't get thrown to, but this is where there's.
He doesn't have that many stats because he's been that good.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I'm emphasizing that there are so many athletes on the field where there's all the games we've played, Alabama's played. It's only been one or two athletes on the field, but this game is an NFL game. There's so many athletes on this field.
A lot of NFL talent.
Consistently, Alabama, LSU, Florida's, Georgia's, USC's are the teams that put those players in the NFL. And when you go back 10 years and look at these Alabama, LSU games and look at those names, And I promise you, these names on the field this year will be the same thing in another decade.
Right. Yeah, this rivalry is not going anywhere.
No.
That was episode 6, week 10 of college football of Saturdays over Sunday. I'm your co-host, Ben Gorowitz, my partner, Max Greenberg. We wish everyone the best Saturday you could possibly have. We're both going to be down in Baton Rouge. We will have a recap of everything next week. Thank you for listening. I hope all your team wins, unless you're an LSU fan. Thanks, everyone, for listening.